Do you use index cards when you're writing a screenplay?
No, I don't. I know a lot of people do. I've tried working that way. And for me, it's just not, I don't know if it's the way your left side brain or whatever, but what I always use, and they're actually getting harder to find, those big legal yellow pads. And I just start writing, and I start writing, sometimes I'll get hit with a little snippet of dialogue that pops into my head, and I'll write it off to the side. But I'll basically I'll keep working like this, working my way down. And as I go through it and review it, I might say, oh, well, you know what? Maybe I don't need that, or maybe I should put this earlier. And I'll try to get as much of that as I can. Again, still leaving that last little bit open-ended, right? And then I will sit down at a computer. So I'll do that with a pencil, by the way, like a hand, yeah, right? So then I'll sit down at the computer and I'll start writing an official outline that will actually go scene by scene. I'll always put in little bits of dialogue that just help with the tone, especially in a comedy, because I mostly write comedies. I'm mostly hired to write comedies. I like to put in a little bit of dialogue because sometimes that helps just establish, for someone else who's going to read it, not for me, but for someone else who's going to read that outline, it'll help establish a character's tone, and also what the overall tone of the comedy is. Is the comedy slapsticky like Fawlty Towers, or is it more restrained? More like I don't know, like Election, like a movie like Election. You can help establish that by having some of the characters say a little bits of lines, or maybe a funny gag or something like that, or something that just I like the kind of dialogue that you'd see in like shows like The Office and like Parks and Recreation. That kind of banter I like a lot. And I try to not copy that, but try to utilize that same sort of tone and that same sort of snap.
Sure. Yeah, I was watching Masterclass, and Jodie Foster gives a great masterclass, and so she was talking about Little Man Tate, mm-hmm. and how they started, fleshing out these characters, and it was just really fascinating to hear about, and you could see if you tried the test of covering up the name of the character and seeing yes. Diane Weist's character, I hope I'm saying her name right, versus Jodie Foster, and then the little boy, you could tell just kind of by the way something was said. Jodie Foster's supposed to be more working class. Diane was supposed to be sort of this, affluent snob that was, so you could just kind of see the difference in who the characters were.
Yeah.
Do you find that is a test for you to kind of?
Yeah, you know what? That's one thing that Todd was always good at when we were writing together, was that I would give him show him the latest pass on it, and he would always say, like, does this line belong to this character, or is it someone else that should say that line? For one of the couple of scripts that I'm being hired to write right now, which I probably shouldn't even say the name of it, but there are 3 lead women characters, and they're all 2 of them are elderly and one of them is much younger, and originally it was 3 elderly women, and on the 3rd draft we decided to make some changes, and we made one of them much younger, right? Just so they weren't all the same, because we were getting into a situation where it was like, who's saying that line, right? So that was one way that we solved that issue, by having the one character drop her down, from being a 60-year-old woman to being a 30-year-old woman. Well, that automatically, just that change alone, is going to change the dialogue, her dialogue, and it's also going to change the way the other 2 characters respond to her.
Right. Yeah, and there is a generational tone to how something is said.
Yeah.
And I think there's also an East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, Southwest, North. I think there's different. Like I notice people from the East Coast say and so forth and so on. I don't hear that as much from California natives. And they might be like, yeah, and so it just kind of continues or whatever. It's looser.
Yeah.
But there's different. Just like there's regional accents, I think there's regional ways of saying something, explaining something.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is I once was hired to write. It was a Christmas movie, but it was set in New Orleans, and so there's some interesting accents down there, right? And some of the characters, obviously, they live there. They're going to have some of those, going to have that accent.
Sure.
And one of the lead characters was actually a cowboy from Texas, an older gentleman. So I was now working with those voices in my head. So speaking, we're working with all these different kinds of accents now, and so that in that way, believe me, it was very easy to know which character was saying what, But yeah, you have to. If the script is going to work for someone else, not just yourself, for someone else to read it, it has to be very clear what character is saying what.
Sure. Yeah, and I feel like, it's like another term, a stone's throw away. I don't know if I've ever used that term, but I've known people that they use that in like every 5 minutes or something,
Yeah.
So it's just, there's just certain like catchphrases and different things.
Sure.
Idioms or whatever, I don't know, but that people
Yeah,
from
and
different areas seem to
right, and
use.
you can use those to assign to a character that will help establish who that character is. I mean, certainly they see it in television series all the time because they have to constantly do that because it isn't just a 2-hour movie. You're talking about episodes and episodes and so on. My favorite TV series of all time is Fawlty Towers, of John Cleese sitcom, which only had 12 episodes. But to me, it's the funniest show that's ever been made. And if you look at the scripts, which they stuck to, they didn't change a word of those scripts. You can know who's saying what line very easily because those characters are so well defined, and that's part of what makes it so great.